Well, it was a very interesting contribution and cocktail of interventions. Miss Judith Cochrane.
I'll give way to Mr Wilson if you want.
I think I remember giving way. I don't even know what she was going to say. But would she agree with me that regardless of how the SDLP try to wriggle out of the embarrassment which they clearly find themselves in, having put public service in jeopardy, that the final budget that was being referred to in the Stormont House Agreement was the budget for 2014-15, and of course we are now into a new financial year. Had they acted, we would have had the final budget through, and we would have had the departments with surety as what money they would have available for this year.
Thank you, and I do concur with the member. No, I won't give way. Thank you. I want to move on. I rise today to support the motion, albeit with a degree of reluctance, and I would.
Okay, point of order, Mr. Atwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a point of order, would you review the comments just made by Mr. Wilson when he referred to a final budget in Stormont House being the 14-15 budget, when everybody knows it's the 15-16 budget? Always good.
I accept his apology for my sedentary position, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what Ms Cochrane has to tell us.
I knew that Mr Wilson was referring to 15-16 anyway. I would call on the House today to show responsibility in passing the supply resolution and the budget legislation in order to begin the process of recovering financial sustainability. At this moment in time, the Northern Ireland Executive and Assembly collectively are acting in an irresponsible and irrational manner, and it's easy to understand why many people are cynical and frustrated with us all, and that their support for devolution is being tested. Mr Speaker, at present there is no clear financial framework in place. There are no financial decisions being taken to ensure that the Northern Ireland Government remains in budget, and the absence of delivery on welfare reform brings considerable financial consequences and risks the Stormont House Agreement, including the financial assistance opportunities for progressing a shared future, dealing with the past and rebalancing the economy. Mr Speaker, it is clear that proceeding with the supply resolution and the remaining budget legislation is the least irresponsible option before us. I say this even though Alliance opposed the current executive budget at the Executive in January. We did this because we believed it was not sufficiently strategic and because some difficult yet necessary reforms were not being pursued. We did, however, subsequently support the supply resolution in February in order to give departments the legal authority to begin to spend in the new financial year. Mr Speaker, I suppose you could say that we opposed the executive policy on the budget, but as the decisions had been taken democratically, we then faced up to our responsibility in government and supported the mechanisms to turn the previous policy decision into reality. We are now in June, and the second supply resolution and budget number 2 bill need to be passed to put in place the remainder of the supply decisions and legal spending power. And without this, we will be subject to even greater pressures. Mr Speaker, our central objective here must be to do whatever we can to reduce the scale of cuts to public services and to the various levers for economic development. The consequences of not passing this legislation is a complete financial vacuum. No decisions on the way forward, financial uncertainty and likelihood of very severe cuts to follow. Avoiding or minimising this eventuality is of primary importance. Mr Speaker, in relation to Mr Allister's amendment, I believe that this amendment could actually stop any process that accepts the implementation of welfare reform, Stormont House Agreement or any unilateral action by the UK Government to continue with other aspects of the Stormont House Agreement, so Alliance will oppose the amendment. Mr Speaker, of course passing the supply resolution does not in itself change any of the underlying financial and political challenges, but it will at the very least provide some space and opportunity where agreement can be found on implementing welfare reform, delivering the Stormont House Agreement and working towards balancing our books. This is now the time for all MLAs to show maturity and responsibility, to rise above narrow party politics and to show a willingness to confront difficult challenges. Actions in recent weeks from the Nationalist parties and the Greens are making Northern Ireland ungovernable and threatening the survival of the institutions. Indeed, it was quite ironic to hear a Sinn Féin MLA earlier on talk about others as being blinded by ideology. Those who oppose the supply resolution and budget bill are in effect voting for bigger cuts, and I have yet to hear a credible alternative. I've heard talk of a fantasy budget, but I think the bigger issue is the fantasy economics from some members of this House. The fact is, Northern Ireland is in a major hole, and I therefore urge all members today to be part of a solution and vote for the motion so that we can continue to work towards a resolution and recover financial sustainability. Thank you.